How are you doing, Cali Crowd? 8 months ago, I started this channel to document my goal of learning to perform calisthenic skills and show what learning some of these skills looks like in real time. A couple months in though, I decided that if I was going to succeed at learning how to perform some of these skills, I was going to need to set some goals to keep me accountable and hold some sort of structure to my training process and subsequently these videos. Today, 6 months on from setting these goals, and I'm going to be going through how I'm doing. Am I on track to achieving these goals by 2020? And what I've learned by trying to achieve these goals as well. But first, if you would like to be part of the helpful and motivating community that we've got here at Cali To The Crowd, then be sure to smash that subscribe button and ring the bell as well so that you never miss out on a Cali To The Crowd video. So unless you've been hiding under a rock, you will know that 2020 hasn't exactly been the best of years. But when a year tries to write you off with fires, recessions and a pandemic, you do the only logical thing, which is setting really aggressive goals. So to get started, what were these oh so great calisthenics goals for 2020? I actually settled on my goals by really thinking about the 3 things that I thought were foundational to building a strong base of strength for calisthenics to progress from. Then I selected skills that would really force me to hone in on those areas. Those 3 foundational skills were mobility, power and balance, and I was going to use the L-sit, muscle up and handstand respectively to build those. Specifically, the goals were hold an L-sit on the floor for 10 seconds, perform 5 consecutive muscle ups, and then kick up into a handstand and hold a handstand for 10 seconds. If you want to see the video on exactly how I settled on those goals, then definitely click on the card. But I also had one more goal that was more private to myself that I'll get to later on in the video. So what's happened so far? What have I actually learned from 8 months of really trying to achieve these goals? Well, the first thing I learned was that these skills were damn hard. I knew learning some of this wouldn't be easy. Athletes like gymnasts and break dancers spend years developing some of these skills, but what I didn't appreciate was how hard it would be in specific areas. When I started learning the handstand, for example, the idea of holding up my own body weight upside down wasn't lost on me, and I braced myself for a tough ride doing that. But it never crossed my mind that while my pushing strength might be strong enough to do this, getting my fingers to a position where they were strong enough to hold me in balance in the way that my toes do when I'm standing right side up was completely alien to me. But what I've actually come to appreciate is that these awakening moments to challenges that you didn't even expect within calisthenics is what makes this way of exercising just that much more awesome. The second thing that I've learned by trying to achieve these goals is that calisthenics makes aesthetics very, very easy. If I'm completely honest with myself, I used to train mainly for aesthetics and free weights was my MO. Yes, there was a fitness element to it, and I definitely did want to become healthier when I was doing free weights only. But if I'm completely honest with myself, I know that when I felt the soft area around my belly and I decided to go to the gym, I was going there with that at the forefront of my mind. Such is the complete irony of fitness that the moment aesthetics was no longer my priority and I focused on moving my body in different ways, arguably ways that would be normal but for modern life, aesthetics that I've been chasing for years tentatively started to show themselves. Now, 2 things on the aesthetics front that I really want to stress. First, I'm not going to be so flippant to say that aesthetics aren't important to me at all. I know that when I look a certain way, there is a really good feeling that comes from that, and I won't pretend that that doesn't exist. But it definitely pales in comparison to the moment that you realize you can now perform a certain skill or move in a way that would have been previously impossible. And secondly, I don't want to peddle the idea that calisthenics alone will turn you into a Greek god. Going from bicep curls to chin-ups alone will not be what gets you to whatever end point you have in mind. And to be honest, if putting on muscle mass is your goal, then there are far more efficient ways to do it than with calisthenics. But what I'm saying though is that by making the changes that training in this way forces you to make, the benefits end up compounding, and before you know it, you've moved the needle quite far. The third and final thing I learned from trying to achieve these goals is that these goals overall were incredibly naive. Actually, no, that's actually a little bit unfair, because it's more the mindset in which I set these goals that was actually naive. When I set these goals back in the early part of the year, I believed that if I could L-sit, then somehow this would undo the years of football during which time the biggest stretch I did was laying down to go to bed. What an incredible lie to tell yourself. The goals of learning to do these skills have definitely done their job. I do feel more mobile, I do feel more powerful, I do feel like I have better balance. But it has taught me that calisthenics is far more than just learning skills. There are nuances to movement that if you just cannot get, you will never learn these skills anyway. For example, in an L-sit, if you aren't pushing through your shoulders, you'll mess up your elbows. With a muscle up, if you aren't pulling high enough, you will never be able to transition correctly. Or with the handstand, if your shoulders aren't open, you will never achieve that aesthetic straight line. In fact, developing these skills is secondary to just moving with better quality, and the skills is just how we celebrate achieving that. The big question then becomes, based on these goals, am I actually on track for 2020? On the L-sit, I was able to achieve an L-sit that I'm actually very proud of. Holding on for 10 seconds is now no longer a problem either, and if you want to see the details on exactly how I taught myself to do this, then definitely click on the card. I regularly tether a quick L-sit to training sessions just to ensure that I can maintain this skill, and right now I'm just in a frame of mind where I'm just experimenting with the different things I can do with it. For the muscle up, this is actually a little bit less of a success story. I really struggled with pulling with enough speed to transition over the bar, and for a long time I had to use a resistance band to support me in my training. Where I am now is that if you ask me, can I transition for a pull up into a straight bar dip? The answer is yes. But because I don't pull high enough, I'm kipping with my legs far more than I would like. So I've not quite checked off this skill as done quite yet. I'm gonna do a video very soon on exactly how I plan on resolving this issue, but if I'm completely honest, this is a rather nice problem to have. I know how many people really struggle with this skill, and to be honest, I'm not gonna sit here and complain about how I can't do a muscle up because my knees keep kipping up to my chest. Quite frankly, I'm really grateful for what I've been able to achieve in this amount of time. And now, handstands. Oh, the handstand. Everything from not being able to take my hips out of anterior tilt, to not being able to balance with my hands, to not having open enough shoulders or flexible enough wrists. Having all these things hinder me, even though I knew I had the strength to hold my weight on my hands, was incredibly frustrating. As things stand, pun intended, I'm at a place in the handstand where if I try to kick up into a handstand 10 times, maybe I can stick it 3 times. But all of those 3 will be the yellowest of banana handstands, and the balance will come more as a result of a fluke rather than from control. For this reason, I've decided to move more towards the frog to handstand as my entry into a handstand hold, rather than the kick-up entry. This way I really want to be able to develop the control over the balance. This is proving extremely tough though, and I'm struggling with so many things, mainly the strength to push out from the frog stand. But there's still time left before the end of the year, so I'm still pushing to achieve this goal. I actually had one more goal that I kind of kept closer to my chest, but that was to release one of these sort of videos every single week. Making these videos actually takes a fair amount of time, but it keeps me accountable to ensuring that there is content out there that shows just how difficult some of these skills are, but just why we should learn how to move in these sort of ways. Yeah, it's great if you can learn to muscle up or handstand in 48 hours or even a week. Really, honestly, more power to you. But for a lot of people, this isn't going to be the case, and showing that struggle and showing that grind for how we can achieve some of these movements is what allows us to empower each other and really have these really difficult conversations about how we progress from where we are to where we want to be. But I want to know what your goals are for 2020. Are you on track to achieving them? Do you have any goals? There's still time to set them. Let me know in the comment section below and we'll start that conversation going, and I will see you guys in the next one.